All right, I think we're live in a special Comics de la Muerte. Ronnie is on the bench for the night. He'll be back next week. But me and Gary are going to talk about a movie that Gary mentioned a few calls back, and it was Annihilation. And when he said it, I put it in my memory bank, and then I was watching a YouTube video on cosmic horror, and the name came up again. And then that's when I kind of got on the hunt of finding it. And all right, we'll talk about that in a second. Like,
I think that's how I brought it up, right? I think we were talking. Maybe was I on the cosmic horror?
Yeah, it was the cosmic horror show.
Is that how it came up? Yeah.
Yep. Because we ranked like our top 2 or 3 cosmic horror movies, and that was in yours.
Yes.
Really, just I'm over the moon with the movie. I watched it once, and then it was like 2 days later I watched it over again.
I'm so glad. I mean, whenever you recommend a movie or a book to someone that you really like, you know that not everyone's going to have the same experience, but you hope they do. So like I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it was it has so many layers to it, but you know what it felt like? It felt like like a young adult walks into like a bar to like where the movie The Thing is like grizzled and old and drinking, and it's like, you met my mom in Studio 54, and I'm your child, because it's like there's so many notes that it hits the same as The Thing, but it has it's got a pretty pronounced like psychological layer to it, which is different. Like I felt like it part 2, like the recent one, kind of tackled it a little bit, but this was like very relatable in very unexpected ways.
Yeah, I think it's probably, I liked a lot of sci-fi movies, a lot of horror movies, a lot of cosmic horror movies. I think the reason that Annihilation is up there for me and that I recommend it a lot is because it does have a lot of meat on the bone, and a lot, there's a lot of ideas there. And it's my favorite kind of science fiction. It's the science fiction that I try to do, which is, let's use this as a playground to talk about an idea,
right?
Or or something like that. And there's a quote I encountered recently that I've really been enjoying. I keep revisiting in my mind. It was from Malcolm Gladwell, and he was talking about how when he tells stories, his strategy is sweet with a meal. Sweet is something that will get people in, get people excited, get like, oh, that's the cool thing, that's the car chase, that's the explosion, that's the lightsaber, whatever. But the meal is like the idea, it's the nourishment. There's something there that actually they keep with them, that sinks in, and that you kind of lure them with the promise of candy, but then you give them something nutritious. And that's what I think Annihilation basically is kind of, to me, a great example of that, where it lures you in with a lot of sci-fi weirdness and amazing visuals and a really cool musical score and lots of bizarre, grotesque, cosmic horror imagery. But then when you start really, and you can watch it on that level, you don't have to sit and get into it. But then if you really sit and like, what's going on here? What are they talking about? There's a lot there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, whoever's watching this back for all the eons of time, and like, I'm human. Like sometimes, like if I find something that I like I have to dive in. I know that like there should have been more of an intro and a setup to like us diving into this, but like this was just one of those things. Like I love this book. I love this story. But no, I'm Jason Alexander. Like I said before, Ronnie's out tonight. This is Gary Hodges. Gary is a fantastic creator. He created a book series at this point. I guess series is a good name for it.
It would be a series
versus
now.
Mars bots. definitely like the best thing that I read last year. So
Wow.
Thank you. And perfect books are perfect for everybody in different ways, but like this book was right in my wheelhouse. Like this was revisiting the books that I got a kick out of when I was in high school, but done in a way that I appreciate more now. Like I read comics back then, but I didn't read indie comics. And like this is indie comics at its absolute maximum exposure. So thank you for sharing your story with us, Gary. It's an awesome book.
That's very nice. Thank you very much. I'm just for people out there who have read the comics or are here because they know something about me. Work is proceeding on the third one. I was a little derailed by I had to move, so that you might be able to tell like there's a different background, and then there was that the whole holiday thing. That 1-2 punch really derailed me for a couple weeks, but getting right back on track. So this year is the year of working on the third chapter of D versus M. Really going to be pushing hard to get it out by the end of the year, even if it is December 31st, 11:59 p.m.
You still made it.
Still, if it's right under the wire.
Yep.
Even if it's posting the link, buy now, ships January 15th, whatever. Like I'm gonna try this year. That's the goal. So
all right, I like it. I'm excited. I can't wait. The story is good. Both books are different. Oh my gosh, my mind is slipping on the guy's name who did the review of 75, but it was an awesome review for
at Indie Comics Dispatch. Yeah, and you're gonna do. I think
I'm doing 97.
97, yeah, pretty soon. Like I said, as soon as I place, right now I'm sold out, and it seems wrong to tease and talk, do reviews of the comics when no one can go and buy them. But I'm going to be doing a small reorder very soon, and that's when you'll have the go ahead. Like, go ahead.
Awesome. All right. Well, I can't wait. I'll make sure I'm ready to post it because there are definitely 2 books that everybody should read. It's just awesome. So mini comic. No, I'm sorry. Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots. Check his Etsy when he gives you the high sign, and look for the review of 75 on Indie Comic Dispatch. And I'll post 97 a little bit closer to when, because it's the one, like, you love both of them, but 97 that's the one you want to, like, that's the dessert.
I think that's where, like, everything gets cranked up. But, like, I can't believe, you're plugging me, plug you. Like, let's talk about you. Let's turn this around.
I'm getting there.
Let's just,
guys. Minicomicbundles.com is almost done. Like we got a handful of stories to wrap up, and like that's it. There's the website says that there's 75 actual bundles left, but I know that number is less. Because I've talked to people who have gotten them. So not only is it wrapping up, but like we're getting close to finishing the campaign and like selling out of the physical bundles. So 3 a year, we got a kung fu mystic horror story called The Drifter. We got Blackbird. This character was also seen in the first bundle, or the first bundle that I wrote, which was the second bundle, in a story called Green Roses. And this is just kind of like just a quick one-off story of another adventure that she goes on, just kind of propels that story. And Predictive Text is kind of the first 3-part horror story that we've done in the minis. And that's on issue 2 of 3, kind of supernaturally, but also kind of Norman Bates. So minicomicbundles.com. I am working very, very hard on completing a submission attempt for Indie Comics Dispatch, Tales from the Dispatch, Volume 3. So nice. I'll get some stuff posted on my Instagram. I actually should get that done tonight at some point. So check out Fallbreaker Studios Instagram. I have a TikTok that I've been running, and I've been doing a lot of like therapy talking on it, Ronnie. I mean, Gary. And I really, really enjoyed it. Like, it's giving me a chance to like shake loose some of this JW stuff and like to really have a place to speak about it. So
That's good.
TikTok, Fallbreaker Studios. If you're ever interested in some of the behind the scenes on why I write the creepy shit I write sometimes, like it's a good place to start. So find me anywhere. But
you already know
I'm ready
this,
to talk about some more Annihilation.
You already know this, of course.
What's that, Gary?
You already know this, of course. The viewing audience does not. I got 2 letters from the Jehovah's Witnesses this week. 2, where they like handwritten. You get an envelope, stamped envelope in your mailbox. Open it up, and it's basically saying like, "Hey, I know life is tough, but I've got a lot of answers for you. Go here, call this person, talk to this person." It's all like I don't know why 2 in 1 week. I mean, I did just move, and I don't know if they like just kind of keep their eyes peeled for when it seems like somebody moved in and start just.
You would be amazed. You would be absolutely
I'm already
amazed. I can tell you, man. Like, there's very detailed. Like, we keep very detailed records of houses in the neighborhood, who lived in them, and who was home and when. So nothing surprises me, but they like you.
Yeah, they're pushing hard. Yeah. There's something about my Honda Fit that makes them think that guy's he's got potential.
It's all a scam. Don't believe any of it. That's the spoiler.
I'm not inclined to sign up, but
good on you.
How do you want to grapple with Annihilation? Okay. How do you want to start? I guess we should say right off the bat, this will be probably full of spoilers. So if you have not seen Annihilation and you're interested in idea-heavy sci-fi, you probably should just save this, like save to your watch list for later. Go watch it. You can get it lots of different places, and then you can watch it, on the re-upload. But if you don't care about spoilers, you might as well just hang out.
I totally would say, if you had told me about this movie from the first second to the last second, I would only say, man, I got to watch this movie. I don't feel like you can really spoil it by talking about it, because it's just not that kind of movie. It's really not. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not.
Yeah. It's all the experience of it and the execution. And it's kind, it's kind of like, just to tie it to the movie. And this does not spoil anything. It seems like it would, but it doesn't. At the very end, Natalie Portman's character, she's had an encounter with an alien entity, and a scientist is talking to her and asks, like, "Can you describe it?" And she says, "No." Right. And when you see when you see what the alien looks like, it's like, yeah, that's fair. Like, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, where do you begin?
Yeah.
Right. Where do you begin?
Annihilation's a little bit like that. It's like, I can walk you through the plot beats, but I don't think that really tells you anything.
Nothing really matters until you see it. Yeah. And I tell you what, Oscar Isaac is he's so good of so much more of an actor than I thought, because the first thing I saw him in was The Force Awakens, but everything else that I've seen him in, like, he's solid. And
he's so solid. And you know what? I mean, I'm gonna this is the thing where I'm gonna hammer on you with this. Now what's gonna be amazing to follow up with is Ex Machina. Ex Machina, he's in that. Totally different character, like just so like opposite end of the spectrum, and so good in that movie. So like that's now that you've rewatched Annihilation recently, I'd say, like, you got to chase down Ex Machina. It's so good.
Okay, excellent. Yeah,
not a horror movie. Street. Yeah, it's no. You know what? And actually, between the two, Annihilation is closer, and the reason I think we're talking about it here on Crimson Owl is definitely more of a horror movie. Ex Machina is not. I would say that's just kind of straight sci-fi. So it's kind of comparing apples and oranges. But I would say, as much as I love Annihilation, Ex Machina's better. Like it's
No way. Okay.
It's so good. I think we'll see what you think when you see it. I think it's
okay.
incredible.
Yeah. All right. I'll watch it soon. I'll try to get that in this weekend.
Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Arrival. I feel like within like a 3-month span, and I felt
a strong
like
3 months of Ex Machina.
That's a strong. Yeah. I mean, and just the sci-fi. Like like I said, only one of those is really a horror movie. But like each one knocking, I just felt like this is like a crazy sci-fi renaissance in film. Like these are the 3 maybe right up there with any of the best sci-fi movies I've ever seen. So
excellent. Okay, I'll definitely.
So why don't I'm going to let you start? Where do you want to start with?
Okay, I'm just going to start at the beginning. We're just going to talk about the movie. I don't know if we'll get to all of it because me and Gary like to talk about the things we will
go
started.
We will go and go.
Yeah, so we'll go until we stop. We'll probably cover most of the movie, but I'll just start at the beginning. So
okay, we'll just go through beginning to end. Do it.
Yeah, you start with Natalie Portman teaching a class on cell division. And that kind of sets up the whole backbeat of the movie. And you find out that she's lost her partner for a year and she's not really grieving with her. And then he makes it home. And it's like the movie gets you closer and closer to the screen because it's very subtle. And you forget that it's supposed to be a horror movie for that first 10, 15 minutes. And it was really... like until you see him say, "I don't feel very good," and you see the blood in the glass, that's when like the shift starts. It's so good. Yeah. And it's
so
the
Oscar
first
Isaac
deep red that you see. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a good shot. Like, yeah, so he basically you get the impression he was some sort of special ops guy. And he's been gone for a year. She sort of presumes he's dead, but she doesn't know. And he just shows up a year later. And you very quickly realize he's disoriented and strange. Like he's not himself. And then very quickly you realize very ill. Like so sick. But that's such a beautiful shot where she's interrogating him. He's sitting at the dining table and she's basically like, "Where have you been? And why didn't you reach out? And what's going on with you?" And all this stuff. He takes a drink of he has a glass of water. He takes a drink and he sets it down. And you can tell he's a little odd anyway, like something's wrong. He sets this glass down and he says like, "I don't feel very well." Something like that. And you look at the glass and there's this cloud of blood in it that must have come out of his mouth. This is a good example where like that doesn't sound like anything, but in the way they shoot this movie,
go see it. Yeah,
it's so kind of beautiful and chilling. Like you see that and you're like, oh no, like I mean, it just feels bad. And so next thing you know, he's in the ambulance, like they're taking him away, and then. What I would say are Men in Black show up and basically run the ambulance off the road and gather him up and race away with him and her, with Natalie Portman, and sedate her. And when she comes to, she's in some sort of secret facility and she's told that he's basically dying. And then I wouldn't even know how to approach this next part. Basically, a psychologist character comes in and lays out what's been going on. And how would you summarize that? Am I still here? Hello? Are you still here? Who is still here? Okay, am I back?
Yeah, I think we're back now. My internet, we've had so much ice. My internet is
Okay, I
acting
wasn't
up
sure
tonight.
who. I didn't know whether I should hang, like which one of us dropped. So I didn't know. Should I refresh?
I dropped it because my signal was low and it was spotty, and then it kicked me off. So I just restarted it.
Okay, okay. Where did you drop off?
You said he's in the ambulance.
Yeah, he's in the ambulance. A bunch of men in black show up, basically.
Yep.
Pull him out of there, take him and her to a secret compound. Natalie Portman meets, when she comes to, they sedate her. When she comes to, a psychologist lays out the situation. And I wouldn't even know really how to approach like how to explain. This is where now like the sci-fi starts happening. Basically, I'm going to take a shot at it. You tell me if
okay,
you think
go for it. Thank you. Yes.
And you do see this in the very first frames of the movie. Object, I'm not going to say a meteor, an object crashes into Earth, crashes into a lighthouse. And from this lighthouse, emanating from it is something that they're calling the Shimmer. And it looks a little bit like the inside of a mother of pearl. Like it looks pearlescent or like an opal or like a prism or something. It's this.
Yeah.
Or like when you see like antifreeze on top of water, like it has that funny, like there's all these colors and swirls in it, you know?
I was going to say like the shirts that like Smash Mouth used to wear.
Right. It's like that. Yes. Yeah, or like the weird plastic things the kids used to have where you could push on it and it would make all these weird swirls.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect one. Yeah.
And basically that's been emanating from the lighthouse. It's been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually it's going to start overtaking like cities and countries and continents and they think the whole world. But right now they're still able to keep a lid on it. The public doesn't know about it. They have tried to send drones in and they don't get anything back. They have tried to send sensors in, nothing. They've tried to send soldiers, like little teams in to try and figure out what's going on in there. They never hear from them again. The only thing that's ever come out, and it's been like 3 years or something, right? Like this thing's been sitting there.
Yeah, 3 years.
The only thing that's ever apparently come out of this thing is Natalie Portman's husband, Oscar Isaac, Kane. And he showed up at home and he doesn't remember anything other than when he walked through the door of their bedroom and he's dying. So there's a big question of like, what the hell is going on in this like weird, you know, the inside the Shimmer. Is that a fairly good?
I think that was when I was talking earlier, I'm like, how am I going to describe? I'm like, how really did the story transition from this to them going into a different dimension? And even after watching it twice, like the exposition is not too much for me.
No,
it's really not.
No,
it's so many words. Sometimes it's like you almost just have to accept it and move forward. That's exactly what I had to do the very first time I watched it, because it was like you knew the story was there, but you just kind of have to accept certain things and advance with it, and know you might have to rewatch it once to like pick up a few other things.
Well, and especially like the most conventional part of the movie is for sure the first 30 minutes, where it's very just like set-up-y and introducing the characters, and you're not really getting any of the sci-fi stuff. You're meeting Natalie Portman's character, you're meeting her husband, you're meeting the psychologist. Like it's very much just establishing.
Sure, here's the rules. She's grieving. Here are your characters.
Yes. Yeah, she's grieving, and she has some kind of strange relationship with a coworker that you don't know the details of yet. And she has this husband who may be dead, but then he shows up. Like that's about all. Like that's all in the first 30 minutes. Once she's at this secret compound, she meets a bunch of other people who they're preparing for an expedition into the Shimmer. Now keep in mind, other than Kane, who's dying, nobody's ever come back. So already it introduces this question. It's one that gets revisited for the rest of the movie. Why would you sign up for this? Like, why would anyone volunteer to do this? And that becomes sort of an interesting character thing with each of them.
Yeah.
Like, why would you willingly? And it also goes back to like, why would Kane do this? Natalie Portman's husband. Why would anybody, what would be their personal reason? But once they decide, and Natalie Portman joins in, she's gonna go with them into this Shimmer because she thinks maybe she can. Basically, she wants to find answers for her husband. She wants to see if she can figure out how to save him. She's a biologist by training. But I think there's also like a subtext of an emotional thing. She wants to understand why he would sign up for this basically suicide mission without telling her. Once they get into it, and I'll let you describe, I love that first scene when they go in there and like the next morning, quote unquote. But once they're in there, it all becomes what I would shorthand as just dream logic. And exposition and conventional storytelling and everything kind of goes out the window. And that's what makes it kind of an abstract, dreamy experience to watch the rest of this movie. Even the horrible stuff is very nightmarish. Literally.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a bad dream, the stuff that's happening, but I would love to hear your take on the once. Okay, so this team sets out to go in the Shimmer, and they pierce the veil of it, and then
on a personal level, I never really felt it was uncomfortable to look at sometimes because it felt like you were in a different dimension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so from the time, especially when they entered the house,
the house,
it just felt off. The house felt off. The colors were just slightly. It was like 10 degrees slightly until you're upside down and you don't realize it.
Everything had like a hue to it. Like everything is like different in there. Did you notice the thing about the house? I didn't until a second viewing. And I watched it, I think, for the third time ever last night, and then I was really keyed in on it. But did you notice the thing about the house is the floor plan of it is identical to her house on the outside, which is which suggests, and this is getting a little ahead of ourselves, but it suggests that not only is the Shimmer playing with, like, it's sort of inventing plant life and inventing animals and playing with organic life, it's kind of making thoughts and things and images real in a very weird way.
Like a dream projector.
It is. Yeah, it's somehow, and it kind of makes sense when you watch the whole movie through. It is somehow, I think, looking in them, especially when you think about the bear and how the bear took on characteristics of its victim. It's somehow downloading people's brains and then making that real somehow.
It was so intense. It almost felt like a support group at times, like with the five of them. It was very odd, but it was very raw. On top of, it's out there. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, this story is out there in the best possible way.
So far,
but it's got very personal seeds. It really, really does.
And so much of it is never explained deliberately. Like, right. I think the whole point is the alien. I mean, that's what they keep coming back to. And when she's being interviewed after all of this, it kind of like she's being interviewed and it's flashing back, and there's a little bit of a time thing. The big thing that keeps coming up when they're talking about, like, what was the alien like? What did it want? What was it? How would you describe it? All they can kind of come up with is it's not like us. It's just not like us, and when you see the scenes in there, Like you totally like it seems like a very honest thing to say. Like you wouldn't know how to describe it. It's so strange and it makes no
Right.
sense. And it deliberately makes no sense. Like, even when the characters who are all very rational for the most part until they're in there too long, but like at
Right.
least initially rational, like even they're like usually saying things like that's not possible. Like what I'm looking at is not scientifically, like it's just confusing and that's the whole point is that the alien is so alien that there's no way to kind of make sense
You
of
have no comprehension of it. Like
no.
it's like trying to play a Nintendo game on a Sony PlayStation.
Right. There's just no, not compatible.
They're too far into each other to really even. There's no comparison.
Right.
But you get it, and I don't know where I think this is the best way to do it, Gary, because it doesn't feel like spoilers because we're just kind of like there is a timeline, yes, but it's so like I don't really want to say it's so much more than that. Like it's the best film in all time, but it's just not the kind of movie that is it's not a linear movie, even though you watch it in a sitting. There's a lot of flashbacks in it, but there's a very raw horror in this one. Very, very uncomfortable, and I'm trying to avoid it, but we have to talk about the bear, right? Like,
oh my god,
it's one of the best things that I've ever seen in a movie before.
Thank you. I think that's what I teased you with in the chat. I was like, I'm not going to go into details. This doesn't really spoil anything, but there's a scene with a bear in a house that is the scariest, most disturbing fucking thing, excuse my language, that I remember, that I can even recall seeing in a movie. Like, I mean, it is 100%. So scary and so
Frank?
creepy. Hey, Frank. And just the sound design. And I don't know, do we want to talk, should we talk, again, yes. Spoilers ever.
We have to, because it's all part of it.
So the thing about the Shimmer, as we've alluded, it kind of starts just mutating and shuffling around genes.
It's like it just spits things out. Like this is close enough to the things on planet Earth. Like
it just starts,
the deer with the tree
like
branch
Lego
antlers.
Stuff. It's nature is just Legos, and it can, even if in our experience species are totally incompatible and you can't like really cross a person with a tree or a bear with an alligator with a shark, like as far as the alien and the Shimmer's rules, Shimmer can do any of that. It's totally fine. And they start seeing this initially, they're seeing like multiple distinct species of flowers growing off the same branch, and then they have a close call with an alligator that has rows of teeth in its mouth like a shark, which alligators don't, and just doesn't make any sense. Well, eventually
it looks like it doesn't make any sense when you see it too.
It's just
another one of those things.
It's just a thing, and it's again an example. The character's sitting around saying like it's like a shark, and it's like but that can't be. But they're looking at it like it's like, so they're like I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like that's just not right. Whatever that is.
Right. You and I both know that this can't be real.
Right. But and yet here we are.
It's
and
right.
And then some of it's really beautiful. Like I remember the scene, Natalie Portman, she's out looking for a body, I think, and she comes across two, I guess you would shorthand them as deer, but they're not really.
Yeah, definitely.
Where they're
deer. With the big antlers. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like flowered and like they look like a flowering plant of some kind. And they look a little unusual. They almost look a little greyhoundy. They're very lean and like and they're just sitting there grazing and bounce off together. And it's like this thing where it's like it's sometimes very beautiful and sometimes horrifying. And in the horrifying column, there's this bear. There's this bear that gets in that starts hunting them at one point. It looks like you never get super clear glimpses of it because it's always hunting at night, which is kind of great. Like that kind of, but it appears that maybe it's shed a lot of the flesh on its face. Like it looks very much like a bear skull, maybe from that's not a bear skull, a bear BARE skull. Like you see it's like bony snout. Yeah.
It was very unsettling.
So your first impression is like some kind of weird zombie bear, but it's even worse. So at some point it kills one of the team, this woman, drags her off into the bush and kills her. And somehow just Shimmer rules, and this is a good example of like there's no logic to it. It's just like anything's on the table. Any horrible thing you can think of can happen in the Shimmer.
Worst case scenario, I got you. Watch this.
It somehow adopts and like incorporates this woman's experience of being eaten and like killed by this thing.
Her screams, yeah.
Her screams, and it becomes like a mimic call to try and like pull people in, where you see it when it comes into a house that they're in. It opens its mouth and you expect it to roar, and instead it's this like awful kind of distorted scream. It's like
the worst sound you could ever imagine. It really is.
Or it like, and that scene alone was like enough where it's like, I'm recommending this movie to everybody I know. Like that. It is so good because they're in this house and the bear comes in, and at first they're like, oh my God, the woman's downstairs. She somehow survived the bear. Yeah. But then like the bear kind of works its way in and it's trying to lure people out or trying just to vocalize by like, it opens its mouth and you see this kind of strange, like tortured version of the woman's scream come out. And you even can see, and I didn't notice this the first viewing, there's like a faint image of like a human skull on the side of its face.
Oh, no way.
So it somehow kind of like The Thing sampled what it was eating and incorporated some of it, but it could only incorporate. It wasn't just the whole body and the whole experience. It wasn't like a Thing clone. It could only sample that few seconds of eating this woman alive. That's the part it could get. So it gets screaming and anguish and terror. That's all that it's now incorporated into its body, which I can't. It was just the coolest fucking thing I've seen in a movie in forever. It was incredible.
It felt so much like this bear knew that, okay, this is the prey that's come into my world. So if I'm eating this one and this is what it sounds like, this will make the rest of them afraid too. Because that was the trigger point. It was like once they kind of leaned into it, that's when it could devour them.
It was kind of like remember in Predator, it sampled the one guy's thing and would say like, over here. Yeah. Like, you know, like, and it would get people like, oh, who is that? And they'd go look. It's similar, but not conscious. Like the Predator is doing it very intelligently.
He's hunting, right.
The bear is just, making like, this is the call. Like, this is the call that might get them, you know, like it's still very much like a dumb animal. And you don't get any impression that it has any human intelligence. It's just incorporated like kind of like a rabbit call for predator hunting or something. It just knows like if something sounds distressed, maybe that will make them come look, you know. Right. It's so great and awful. And that scene is horrific. Like there's 4 women, I think, in that house when the bear comes in.
By that time there's 4,
And it goes bad. Like just as you'd imagine.
And how does it looks real, like even the mauling like looks. There were times like that first time, like through that scene, I looked away quite a bit.
The effects are great. That's another thing. It's a good way, like the effects in the movie, the visual effects, they're very restrained and like very like carefully chosen, but when they happen, like they're totally convincing.
It counts.
You know, it always looks very cool. But.
The sound design was kind of, I leaned right with the whole dynamics of the movie. And there's so much, like, not even really in sequence. There's so many times that you're going to say, I never even knew that I would even think to be curious about seeing that.
Right.
But
well, I'm thinking
looks
of
awesome.
the body in the drained pool in the remember they get in and they find like a place where the soldiers who had preceded them had set up.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there. First, they find that videotape, that amazing videotape, which I'll let you talk about if you want. But what I especially was into, that was an awesome thing. And that's another moment where you realize, like, oh, this has gone off the rails.
Yes.
Like, this is bad. But then they find a body there. And it's another good example of, I wouldn't even know how to describe it and do it justice. Like it's another Shimmer thing where you can tell it's combined things. Was a human, I guess.
Formerly, yes.
Formerly, it's now, I would say, like the corpse is somehow blended with like fungus or something, or like it's or something like that, and it's kind of exploded and grown up the wall in a way that, and this might sound weird, is sort of mesmerizing and beautiful, even though it's horrific. Like it looks terrible. You can't stop looking. Like, I wanted to just freeze frame and stare at that. I want a model of that for my bookshelf. Like, just of that scene, that body they found with like the crazy growth out. Like
there's just
a perfect.
You'll never see it anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like through this movie, there was so much that you saw that I understood how you could, even if your body just fell apart, like you think Oscar Isaacs is up to this point, like you can't see that stuff, and like including the video, you can't see that stuff and then go back to Subway and have a $5 footlong. It's like,
yeah,
those two lives don't exist anymore.
You can see how people were checking out, once they were there, where they're like, there's no, how do you go back? Like the stuff, not only, and that becomes like one of the big themes of the movie is change, and like how you've been changed by the things you've experienced. Like that's a big, like they visit that in a lot of different ways throughout the movie. And like some are very real world and some are very cosmic horror. But like, that videotape, you watched that. And I don't know, did you ever see Event Horizon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It reminded me a little of that. Remember when they first watch that cam of like, what was going on the ship? Yeah, and it's all, you can tell it's like everything's gone off the rails and everyone's gone insane.
You start seeing all the symbols painted in blood on the walls.
It reminds me of that. It's not like, it's not like death metal cover.
Right, because it's only a few people,
It's a few people, and it's very, just like the rest of the movie, it's very controlled and very calm, and there's no jump scares, but it's also a moment where you're like, oh no, this is all wrong. All wrong. Like, and I love like the paramedic character. They get done with the video and she's like, all right, well, we're getting the F out of here. Like, I mean, like she is done for the rest of that movie. She's like, this is the most effed up thing I've ever seen in my life, and we're out of here. Like, how do we, I'm done. I'm checking out.
Well, the thing is, it's like, not to, the movie is the movie, guys. Like, we got to talk about the movie. The first time I see it, I'm like, oh, it's so horrible that he's cutting this man's guts out.
Yes.
But then you say, now hold on.
What is he doing? What is he doing?
What's going on here? Why
are they cutting it? And the guy's like cooperating. The guy's he's not resisting. So that's okay. So if you haven't watched it and you don't care about spoilers, they find this place where the soldiers apparently had camped for a while. The team that went missing, except for Natalie Portman's husband, who came back. They find a memory card with a note that says something like, for those who follow. Something like that. Like and they plug it into their video camera and they all huddle around to watch this thing. And it's a 3 or 4 guys.
Yep.
One guy seems ill. He's sitting and like he seems like his breathing's not great. one or two guys are holding him down, but he's not fighting it. Like, he's totally like going along with this. And Natalie Portman's husband, Kane, has a knife and starts cutting his belly open. And at first you're thinking like, oh, okay, so they went totally insane. Like, they're just like they're out of their minds, killing each other.
Right.
But then he pulls the belly open, and words don't do it justice, but the best way to think of it is it appears that his intestines are just a coil of eels swimming around in his gut. Like, it's just weird.
They're
like,
very active, like more
organic
active
tubes in motion.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of like looking at this, like with the video camera, like, you see, and like putting their hand in to like see this thing's like rolling over their hands. It is the most bizarre, but that's where like everyone watches this and like, well, let's go home. Like, that's enough. I don't know what we just saw, but it's wrong. It's so wrong. And like, that's another part of the movie where like, this is maybe the best movie I've seen in a while. Like, it's so weird and so different.
You don't expect to see movies like it's total 80s vibe, but it's so updated. You don't expect to see movies like that now. Like, in my short stint with horror, all the movies with these kind of themes are like way down low on the VHS totem pole.
Yes.
But this is not that. And this is like, it's a whole different level. It really, really is.
Yeah.
And it keeps going. Like, from the videotape to the bear.
Yeah.
This whole scene it's some of the most tense since really The Thing. Like,
terrifying.
You feel the pressure building this entire time.
Because, and like The Thing, because of the strength of the character work, and I think because they play it so straight and seriously, and like the Gladwell quote, like, there's a meal there. There's a lot of interesting, it's not Event Horizon, which is all just like crazy bullshit for crazy bullshit's sake. You know, like, I mean, and which is entertaining, but there's nothing, you can't sit and write a thesis about Event Horizon.
No.
You could sit and write a thesis on Annihilation. There's a lot of ideas there. And that's what I think makes it more horrific when you have these scenes, when you have come across the bear, when you come across the alligator, when you come across the video, and like other things that happen later. Like, it makes it more upsetting and more shocking that they're going there, because like you said, this is the kind of gore and violence you expect to see, sad to say, in a lesser movie, you know?
Yeah. So did you pick up any hints of The Shining in this movie?
That's an interesting, I didn't think of that.
Because I did for a lot of it. Like, a lot of it is like, maybe not the same place, but definitely like the same temperature. You know, because it's like once it became undone, it was The Thing, The Shining, Midsummer, for a little bit more like grounded. Those are the only movies that I really can compare. And Annihilation are the only movies that I can compare that sense of, this is not going through the movie to get to the helicopter to be rescued to live a normal life. Like, this is all these items set into stone.
Yeah.
You will not be the same by the.
I think you feel like you're riding in a shopping cart over the edge of the Grand Canyon. It's that kind of movie where it just gets progressively worse for the people in it. Did I lose you again? It looks like I'm still here. Guys, I'm taking over Crimson Owl. It's all me now. Oh, wait. Oh, he's back. Oh,
I can't give you a second, Gary.
I know. I was just about to
mute me.
I was just about to change everything. No, you're watching like it just everything spiral down. Like, and like those movies you named, the characters are stuck. Like they kind of just have to see this through, but because of lack of better options. You know, like what are they going to do?
It's like going through a car wash at that point. Like you are where you are, and this is where it takes you. And
and they get very literally to that point where there's like an argument in the group, like, should we just get the hell out of here? And the point is like, you know, we've been in here for days. We don't even know which way to go back. Our compasses don't work. Like we don't like it's almost easier just to see this through, even though this is going so poorly. You know, like we just kind of have to push through.
Yeah, you have to. See, I knew it. Frank is telling the truth. I knew it.
Yeah.
Last week he was in the movie. Which movie was it?
Which one?
It's driving me insane.
Oh, are you thinking of?
You were in the gate last.
I'm sorry, you're going in and out. Are you going in? Frank, is he going in and out, or am I going in and out? Frank, make yourself useful. Oh, I'm waiting. I don't see an update.
All right.
I see the timer ticking, so I'm assuming I'm still in. Oh, the gate.
Yeah, I'm here too. Can you see me yet?
I see you. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so but no, this movie I think that they all accepted that they were going to die. And so it was just a matter of how.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and some of those characters, it was very literally that. Like, I mean, we find out that the psychologist character has terminal cancer.
Yep.
So it's very easy for her to be like, I'm going to see this through, you know, because she's dying anyway. But everyone in there is sort of damaged, and that's another theme that comes up, is this idea of self-destruction, you know, of blowing up your own life, literally or figuratively.
Yeah, literally, right?
Yeah, and at the end, literally, there's a literal example, but yeah, throughout you see a lot of metaphorical examples of it. But yeah, they're all kind of like, well, what do I really have to lose? You know, they're like almost all of them are like that for different reasons, which I mean works into the bigger themes of the picture.
It was it was, you know, like I've given you little bits and pieces of what I'm doing with Ransom Notes, but it very is the cost of knowing the side of things that you don't necessarily want to know yet.
Yeah.
Is like, can you come back from like ultimate truth?
Right.
And it was deep. Like, this is a very deep cut movie, but
it is
solid.
It is
solid all the way through, and it never felt preachy.
No. And like I said, I think you can watch it without getting hung up on that. Like, you don't have to chase those rabbits. Like, you can just sit and watch it like a weird sci-fi movie with some neat neat visuals and great performances all around. I felt like everybody in it does a good job.
It was solid.
I was skeptical when I sat down with it because personally, buying Natalie Portman as like a former soldier, like, to me, like, I don't know, like, it was just a little hard, but she manages okay. Right. And like, I thought like, all right, okay. But like everyone in it, I thought was very good. The visuals are very good. I love the soundtrack. It's mostly very quiet acoustic guitar through most of the movie, but then you get to the lighthouse finally and the alien, and it turns into weird synth, like alien music that is so good. I have to admit, it was like sort of my wake up alarm music on my phone for months. Like, it just, it's so like, it's this kind of gradual, strange, bizarre music that like,
it's like sounds at first, but it's way cool. But exactly what you would imagine alien music would sound like.
Yes, yeah, especially and aliens in this movie where they're strange and upsetting and
yeah, how can it be
beautiful
so
in a
simple and
way?
upsetting at the same time? Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean they're and I found at the end, not the end, but like the culmination of the whole lighthouse sequence.
Yep.
A little pitiful in their simplicity. You know, that they're like and it's again, we're not worrying about spoilers, but it's kind of hard to explain without just info dumping. They have a mimic quality, like the aliens, where they're trying to be like whatever they're encountering. And you get hints of that leading up, like you know, the bear's encountering a victim and is kind of like that, and like plants are encountering people and growing to like there you see plants growing in the shape of people in this one yard. Like it's just, you know, it's trying to like sample and reference and emulate. And there's kind of an ultimate version of that at the end where this alien figure is maybe trying to interact with Natalie Portman. It's hard to say how conscious it is, but it's doing it by just mirroring.
Right.
And it's almost like one of these, I don't know if this is not PC anymore, but the little Chinese finger traps where you put the thing in and like you try to pull and it won't let you because like you have to kind of reverse your thinking to deal with this thing because it's going to react however you.
Right. Yeah. The more tense you are and the harder you pull, the tighter.
Yeah. And she's trying to fight to get away from it and fight it and like all these things. And of course, it's just equally, you know, responding like, you know, so she has to kind of back off and kind of think about this, like how to deal with this thing. But there was something about that I found just a little pitiful or pathetic on the aliens' part. Like you could tell that there's a simplicity to it where it's trying to understand, but in a very alien dopey way, you know, and it's
but dopey to the alien and creepy to us, you know.
Yes, very creepy. Yeah.
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 But it was a solid payoff to the lighthouse. Like with the alien, like there was the first time I watched it, there was like a split second of okay, what can this be? Like of all these things, what can this be? But quickly it goes from that to it's funny you say simple because this part reminded me of what was it, the Johnny Depp movie Transcendence, and how you didn't see that one, and how he pretty much became like this universal intelligence that looked like he was. And again, this movie is old, and it's also a movie you should probably see, but it looked like he was also becoming like this being for world domination. But he was really just trying to help because he had been human before. But the way that they spun it so that the government of this story could take him over was to make him seem like if he did one more thing, he was going to be too connected. But, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, I know. It's a powerful comment. It's a thinker. It's
pretty intense.
Well, so, and I'm not trying to avoid spoilers because we already said we're going to do that, but I'm also trying to not say anything I don't have to. So in case someone does go and watch it, you know, there's still things. But Natalie Portman and the psychologist characters eventually find their way to the lighthouse, and Natalie Portman finds another video. She finds a corpse in another video, which is fascinating and disturbing in a cosmic horror way. Like once you watch this video, it reveals a lot and make a lot of pieces fall into place about like weird things that were set up in the beginning of the movie. And it's like, oh, I see. And it's kind of a gut punch. It's kind of a gut punch to realize who that corpse is on the ground. It's kind
Yep.
of like, I mean, it's powerful. It's a
hard,
big
yeah.
kind of emotional thing. And there's a line in the videotape who the person who ends up being a corpse has this strange, it sounds like coffee house nonsense. He says something like, I thought I was this person and I found out I wasn't. Who was I? Was I you? Were you me? Like it just sounds like gibberish. That in the context of the movie, it feels like the most powerful, strange, like thing where you sit and think. It's very existential, and it works. This person commits suicide on video camera, and that's the body there. And then she goes down in the basement where the alien has been sitting. The alien that fell to Earth, basically. What probably is the primary alien. You've been seeing all this weird alien DNA. But primary. And this is the perfect example where the scientists are saying, like, can you describe it? And she says, no. I don't think I could either. The best I can say is it's kind of, those kaleidoscopic tubes you had as a kid, like it's all broken glass, colored glass, and you turn it and it's weird patterns. It looks something like that. Like it's physical. It's absolutely there. It's a 3-dimensional thing.
Yep.
And I wouldn't know how else to describe it. Like it's oh gosh, what is I'm getting a special delivery from Frank. It's not a video. I'm glad it's not a video of an alien convincing you to commit suicide, because the reason I brought that up is, to me, that was, of everything in this movie, classic Lovecraft. This idea of being confronted with a cosmic reality and saying, like, well, I'm cashing out. Like, like I don't know what to do with that information. It's exploded my sense of self and my fellow. Yeah,
I've reached the end of my line.
That's it. I think the only thing that's left for me is to kill myself, because now I've been confronted by the universe, right? in a very Cthulhian way, where it's like, oh, well, I don't understand anything anymore, and I'm not going to be of any use to anybody if I leave here. So goodbye, and you get it. You get it. Like you said, it's like, how does that person go home after everything he's seen and experienced? I don't know. I don't think there's
nothing else. Like,
no,
there's not one thing from the time that they cross through the Shimmer till the end that you can just, turn on your heel and walk back out of the bubble and continue. In retrospect, they should have their first waking day in the Shimmer. And I say waking because there's this great thing. They cross through the Shimmer, and then the next scene, you see them go through the veil. The next scene, Natalie Portman wakes up in her tent. She crawls out of her tent, and she's like, I'm disoriented. And they find out that based on their rations, they've been out there for like 4 days, and they have zero recollection of any of it. The last thing they remember is going into the veil. That's when I think that would have been the time to say, like, we're turning around right now. Yeah.
Like, we've been out here a week and we don't remember anything. Like, that's...
Yeah, we may not ever remember what happened, but we don't need to. Let's leave it where it is.
But we made camp and we ate rations. Like, we've been doing something. It was almost like
they've been moving about consciously.
Yeah.
With no recollection of it.
They just had a 4-day blackout.
It's almost like initiation with this movie. It's like, okay, if you can make it through this 4 days, then I can show you what's next.
Right. And it's the least crazy thing that happens to them in the Shimmer.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, when you look back on the whole rest of the movie, it was like 4 lost days. Like, it's probably good that they don't remember. Like, this is probably insane.
Can I get the package with the bears in the 4 lost days so I can get that all knocked out all at once?
Right. Oh, that bear. The bear is so good.
Yeah. Just beyond my wildest dreams, like, as far as this movie goes. The ending, it took me a couple of times to digest, and like some light reading, like to fully appreciate it. But
it's an ambiguous ending.
The ending is where it becomes more existential than like trying to navigate the physical side of this. It's more tragedy and grieving and loss and new beginnings than the entire rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, who are you, and are you still you if you've been changed? And are you still you if your experiences changed you? And, you know, like, there's a lot of weird, and that's where it gets into this weird payoff of, like, the ending on paper is very ambiguous and probably very open to interpretation. And I can imagine a lot of people might get turned off by the ending. They're like, well, what happened?
Yep,
like,
sure.
what, you know, like, you can imagine, you can hear the complaints. I'm sure if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, just filter for the 1-star or whatever 1-star reviews, and I'm sure you'll read like the ending didn't make any sense and there were no answers and blah blah blah. But as a launching point for, like, I felt like the ending is perfect to tee up. Now you guys in the theater, and this was when I first saw it. I saw it with a friend of mine in the theater. The ending is a perfect setup for, like, now go to dinner and talk about it. You know, like, now
absolutely.
go to dinner and try and figure out, like, what did it mean? What was it saying? Like, what was it about? Like, what does the bear mean? what does the shimmer mean? What does the alien mean? Like, what is the difference between, you know, Kane before he went in and Kane after? And, like, I mean, like, that's where it really pays off. And that's why it's, like, one of my favorites, because I feel like, oh, it's just a rich movie for conversation and debate and analysis.
Yeah, like, there's parts of this movie, like, you and I appreciate this movie the same, but there's parts of this movie that we saw completely different,
right?
And we appreciated it for, like, the way that we saw it, and I don't think that either of us can be wrong.
No.
You know, and it's like, look at the stuff on The Shining. Like, if you go on YouTube and punch in The Shining, I bet you there's 30 different stories of what Stanley Kubrick really meant with this movie against what Stephen King wrote. And none of them are the same. And they all have, like, validity in fiction world. Like, I ain't talking about, like, the super secret stuff.
Right.
Because,
you know, talking about how he faked the moon landing and all that one. Yeah.
That's a whole different story.
For sure.
But
I mean, it's and that's the best art, I think. I mean, I think art, and this is opinion, art should say something. And, like, there should be some artistic intent. I don't know if I am as impressed by art where it's just an artist, like, just basically getting high and writing something and it's just nonsense, but it's like, but it's my vision. Like, I mean, I like there to be some motive, like some idea that you're exploring, but I think that's not what it's all about. I think it's about, what does it make you feel? What does it make you think? Like, that's why I'm caged. Like, when it comes, and I'm not trying to just bring it back to D versus M, but it's why, like, when people say, what happened to Jenny in 97? Like, I'm not going to answer that, because I think it's important what you think happened to Jenny. I think it's important what you think D versus M is about. I don't want to be out there giving you the decoder ring. That's not the point. That's not the point of any art. It's like, well, how does it make you feel? What does it make you think? You know, how do you contextualize the ideas in Annihilation? You know, what is it like? There's some things that absolutely is about. It's about trauma. It's about change. It's about self-destructive behavior. You know, there's a lot of things that we can all agree on that, probably. But then, like, okay, now when we get into the weeds, like, what are the little beats? Like, that's where I think it becomes very personal, and that's valuable. It's not wrong. It's not like, you know, well, we should see what the author intended. The author probably, if it's a good author, intended you to come up with your thought, you know.
It was everything that I see like this, like, my thing is, like, I think I've said it before, is like, writing is relatability. And like, so many movies that I see, I can like, if I can tie it back to like a situation that I might have experienced with the organization, that's like, especially with horror, like that's a big selling point for me, like, because now it connects me, and like going into a new world that was like, it was something to see.
Mm-hmm.
But then you realize like that you can't get out, or what has happened to get you here. Like,
yeah,
what happened before these guys found that, made this videotape of getting the intestines cut out? Like, what did they experience before that, and who experienced it before them? Like,
right.
because time is different in this thing. Like, you don't know what happens in this thing, even if it had only been there for 3 years. Like,
See, and I think, don't they say, I think at the beginning, she had the impression that she had been, well, first they had a lot of missing time, but she had the impression that she had been in there. She said something like days, maybe weeks. And the guy she's being interviewed by says, you were in there for 4 months. You know, like she has no, and then they're asking, like, what were you eating? Like, you didn't have enough food. And she's like, I don't remember eating. Like, it's just totally, it's again, there's this,
distorted.
it's like being, it's like a dream or tripping, or, you know, being like, you just are not fully there. Like, you don't fully.
It's like your information is being downloaded like out of you. It's like this bubble is like taking your information and like combining it with information that's collected from other people, and you end up with these chunks and gaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, until you get and then when you get a grasp on what's happening, that's when, you know, that's when you lose your mind. It's like when you realize,
that's when people
how
are
you've
like
been melted. You know,
it's where everybody starts fraying, like when they're in there.
Yeah.
You know, and then like and it just gets more and more. It looks like I'm just thinking about the beach in front of the lighthouse with the crystalline trees, and it looks like, I mean, you can't really call them graves because they're not buried, but someone has laid out all these skeletons like on the outside the lighthouse. Like, I mean, which are presumably all the previous soldiers or something that got that far, and then they just but they were like, they're not buried, but they're like, it's like rib cages sitting, you know, like on. It's so surreal. Like, you know, it looks like surrealist paintings or something. You know, it makes it doesn't, but by the time you get to that point in the movie, you just start accepting it. It's like, this is the Shimmer. This is what it's like in here. Where like at first, like it ramps up and you're getting acclimated, and the characters, and like Natalie Portman walks right by those graves and barely gives them a second look. You know, like, because she's so now like in this weird headspace. At
a certain point, you just have to accept that the Shimmer does not exist in the timeline that you were born in. Like,
right, and that
it does its own thing.
Yeah.
Did you have you read the IMDb description of this movie?
No, I haven't. Do you have it up?
It just says a biologist signs up for a dangerous secret expedition into a mysterious zone where the laws of nature don't apply.
I mean,
that's it.
That's it. That's it. But in a way, like, doesn't spoil anything. You know, like, because again, like we said right off the bat, it's an experiential movie. There are some movies like that. I'm sure we could think of a few where I could tell you everything that happens and it doesn't matter. Like, you have to see it. You know, I mean, the thing you could spoil, because who's getting infected like that, but like maybe like Alien, the original Alien movie. Like, if that's a movie that should have been, by all rights, just a B movie straight to video. Like, you know, someone's on a spaceship, an alien gets in and starts killing them off one by one. That sounds like the stupidest movie I would never sit through,
Yep.
And it's one of the best of all time. And I can tell you everything that happens in Alien. I can tell you about the chestburster scene, and I can tell you about all that stuff, and it wouldn't make any difference at all. Like, you need to see it. Like, and Annihilation is kind of like that. Like, it's where it doesn't matter. I could tell you everything that happens in it, and I still haven't. You don't understand what it's like to see it.
No, yeah, like anything that I say about the movie should make you want to go see it more, because
yes,
an alligator with rows of teeth like a shark, in real life can look pretty silly.
Yeah,
but it was bracing in this movie.
Yeah.
And again,
and
like,
somehow
this might be number
realistic.
6. Yeah, the bear.
Yeah. The bear. There's no way you
haven't seen anything like that in a movie.
No, it like I said, the most disturbing, awesome, nightmarish horror scene I can think of in a movie.
No.
That I've seen in the past, I don't know, 10 years. Like I maybe ever. Like, I'm trying to think of a scene that was more creepy, like the perfect balance of sound design and creature design and like terror. Like I don't know. I honestly I can't think of anything. Yeah, Ralph. Yeah, the bear is everything. The bear is everything. Like that.
Absolutely.
It's so good.
Here's the crazy thing about that bear is it looked so real.
It does.
It looks so real.
Yeah.
That again, zombie bear.
But again,
whoopity doo.
Real as it
this
looks,
is not that.
As good as an effect as it is, it's the cry that it does. That's the thing that it puts it so far over the top. It's just like, whoa, like that just melts your brain when this thing starts vocalizing in that house. And it's just the perfect sound. I don't know how to describe it. It's exactly like if I sat and wrote that, if I was like, there's this weird mutant bear that kills somebody, it can somehow adopt their ability, the sounds it was making when it was killing it, it can mimic that later, but not perfectly. I mean, it's still a bear trying to make noises. Like, so sound designer come up with the sound, like it's exactly right. It is so perfect. Yeah. And again, do yourself a favor. Do not look it up on YouTube. Like, if you think you might want to watch this movie, because it's still great. Like, if you just watch that scene, it's great. But what makes it great is kind of what we were talking about before. The layering and building of the movie and the plot and the characters to that moment. Like, once you know the characters in the room with that bear, once you followed them through the Shimmer all that time, that's that, secret ingredient X that makes it one of the most incredible, memorable horror scenes I've ever seen in my life. Like,
visually, the bear is a treat, but like the things that the bear represent is what, like I said, in 2021, I'm sure there's been 1,000 zombie animals that have been, drawn, created, digitized, what have you. In a vacuum of however many minutes that bear has of on-screen time against your most scariest film moment ever, this stands up. Like, this stands up just fine. Because
it really is, in terms of like horror movie moments. And you're right. It's probably like 3 minutes. Like, I mean, it's not a ton, like maybe 5. I don't know. It's not a ton. It's pretty short. But horror movie moments, again, I can't think of them all in my head right now, but like, it's absolutely one of the best. Certainly one of my personal top 5. But in terms of just like sheer terror and that kind of reaction to like there's something in the room that might try to eat you, I can't think of anything better. Like there might be other horror movie moments, like, you know, there's scenes in The Exorcist or something, but like in this class of like something in the room with you, a monster in the room with you, I can't think of anything better. Like I really can't.
No, because it was different than being on a spaceship, you know, and you saw it like different than the Blair Witch, because the Blair Witch to me was really scary.
Really scary. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is like, there's been a few times, like, as I started to write horror where I've been like, oh, there's levels. Like, I'm not supposed to stop at this part. There's a second layer you have to get to.
Yeah.
And this was one of those times where I was like, oh,
I know.
Like, there's other levels.
I had that. It's funny you say that. It is a good example of that, where you think sometimes like, I guess I held back a little bit and I didn't have to. I didn't have to. Because like I'm seeing this example and like they pushed, you know, they like pushed past where I was thinking like, that's enough. That's scary enough, or that's gross enough. And they're like, no. We can go farther. We can go farther than that. Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it. Nope. Sometimes you gotta, if you think you can keep their attention, if it kept your attention, try it. You know, like I'd say, you should watch this movie at night, Frank. Like, watch it at night. Watch it with all the lights off. Yeah.
Because it's generally a very kind of quiet, almost meditative kind of movie. Like you know, most of the time it's very experiential. And it's not, I'm thinking off the top of my head, I don't think there's any real jump scares in it. It's not like there's dread and there's like a lot of gruesome stuff. But it's not like monsters jumping out at people. It's very much like, this is a kind of a high-minded, you know, I've had a beer. But it's kind of like, the comparison that came to mind because I've had a beer is Dante's Inferno. They're trucking on this journey and they're seeing crazy things as they go. Like that's kind of what it is. You know, it's kind of this weird journey to the heart of the maze, and it's getting stranger and stranger and stranger. And it kind of has that tone, and there is some terror and there is some danger, but it's mostly just like them kind of marveling at the weirdness as they get closer to their goal.
You know what I thought about it? I thought that it was a lot like if you were to undergo like, not like stand-up comedy hypnosis, but like a real like trauma regression session to where you walk inside of your brain through your trauma. Because I think my brain is awesome because of the trauma that I've gone through. Like, I love the way that I can like look at things.
Yeah.
But like, there's very dark corners. There's very, very dark rooms that you don't really want to go into all the time, but they're there. And I thought that this movie kind of, in the grounded side of it that we were talking about, lended itself almost as a therapy session to say, these parts exist. Like, they don't really go away, but you don't have to live in them. Like, you should keep moving through them as well.
Well, in a way, I mean, one possible, I don't know if it would be right to say like reading of the movie, but at least a way to kind of start thinking about the movie. If you've watched it and now you want to try and take it apart, you could kind of look at it as a weird fever dream therapy session for Natalie Portman's character, exploring how she was responsible for the failure of her marriage. You know, like, I mean, that's kind of like, if you really wanted to boil it down to like simple themes and like what's happening here, it's kind of like, if she went to a therapy session to talk about her failed marriage and how she how she blew it up, basically.
Right.
And she went to this therapy session on mushrooms. Like this would sort of be
yes, 1,000%. Yep.
Yeah, like this would be the experience of it, or like on
Yep.
DMT or something. Like she's seeing
Right.
machine elves, and she's seeing like crazy polygonish, kaleidoscope aliens, and thinking about the fact that, like, I mean, the image that sticks with me so much, and I thought it might almost be like too overt, but it's at the very end, so I'll allow it, was when there's an image of the alien which has set itself on fire, going and touching the corpse that it was connected. There's a corpse in the room that it has this connection to, touches it and sets it on fire in turn, and starts setting its whole house on fire. And to me, it's like this perfect metaphor of Natalie Portman. Like Natalie Portman is like, she hates herself. She's hurting herself, and in doing so is burning down everything around her. Like her husband, her house, her happiness, her job. Like she's just kind of this wrecking ball going through her own life. That's kind of like what this movie, to me, that's what this movie was sort of about. And with a fever dream sci-fi alien logic. Like if we're going to tell that story again, tripping on DMT. Like we're going to tell that story.
Yeah, like all the other soldiers that she was with, they came with some baggage similar, like in its own way to what she had. So it was almost like that. This was where you paid the reaper, so to speak. And that's why, like, looking at it the second time, I was like, the house scene, even with the bear, is very much like a support group setting.
Yes.
And, where they're all talking about what they've gone through. And unfortunately, like in this case, it gets most of them.
Yeah.
But
all that hurt.
Like, yeah, I don't really feel like the lady that turned into the flowers, I don't feel like she lost. I feel like
she sort of willingly let herself slip under the water, and she's an interesting one. And it's funny you bring her up, because when I rewatched it last night in prep for this, and she stood out to me as sort of someone that I want to think about more, and something like that. She's kind of interesting compared to the rest. Because like the scientist character, like when she's being interviewed afterward, he says something like, they all died, but you came out. Can you explain that? And Natalie Portman's character, the only thing she could come up with is like, I had a reason to come out, and none of them did. And I think that also, I feel like, is an idea that's rich for mining, if you're really trying to like think about this movie. But like you said, the woman who started sprouting all the flowers, she's a little different. Like it wasn't like a weird. Everyone else felt vaguely suicidal, except for her. Like there was some kind of acceptance that was.
It was like she accepted that she was changing into something else. Like,
and she didn't, and she wanted control over what? Because she was. I think it was the bear experience that like told her like, so you can either fight this thing, or you can try and control it. And all this, but like, I don't want to do either one of those things. Like, I want to, and like, like I said, she just sort of allowed the tide to kind of take her out to sea, metaphorically.
Right.
And that was sort of interesting. And like I said, it's a character that stood out to me on the third viewing. Like that was like, oh, she's kind of interesting. She's different.
Yeah. Yeah. This story, real quick, just to tie it to comics, it did feel a lot like the end chapter of Uzumaki, where they kind of were in the other side, and they just kind of realized that acceptance of the spirals won. Like, the piece that they found in accepting it was like, for the first 15 seconds after I read it, was kind of like a cop out, but then you realize like, no, like, this is how some things end. Like some things just end. Like you may not want them to, but
your only choice, like you can't change that it happened. Your only choice is how to relate to it. Like that's, like that's where you have some autonomy. That now that you've said that, oh my God, I would do anything to see Ito draw this story like like a graphic novel. That'd be the perfect pairing. Like it really would.
Can you imagine like his version of just I would love just a book of his version of the wildlife in this world, like
a bestiary
sketchbook.
Just like a picture of
absolutely,
the deer and the bear and the crocodile. I want to see him draw, because when you think about it, it is kind of Ito-y, the corpse in the pool. Like, I mean, all that stuff is like, oh, that would be just crazy. That would be really cool. But,
yeah, that would be awesome. That would be a must-have for sure.
Yeah.
Well, shit, Gary, we've been going. What were you getting?
Hour and a half.
Yeah.
I'm sad. Ronnie didn't manage to pop in. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah. I bet he'll be back next week.
Yeah, I think he will too. I would like.
Yeah, Ronnie, we're thinking about you, buddy.
That's right.
But this is so. I guess in honor of Ronnie, we got to do a rating scale. Like, what would you rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh boy. You know what? The way I think of scales, usually it's like, can I imagine ways it should, like things they should have done differently or could have been better or whatever, like stuff like that. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a 10. My impression is that it's a perfect, flawless execution of the idea they had. And to me, that's the metric. Like, I understand the story they wanted to tell, and I think they did it exactly right. It was effective. It was interesting. It was beautiful. The characters were interesting. I found it emotionally moving. I found it chilling and creepy in places. So like, I think if scoring is based on execution, I think it was executed just flawlessly. Like I can't think of anything.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, if only they had, like, there's nothing like that. Like it's just right.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a 9.8 out of 10.
There we go.
Yeah. I didn't really understand the purpose of Natalie Portman having an affair. It was like such a minuscule thing. I felt like it was just kind of extra sauce, like right at the end.
I think it was just to illustrate two things. One, the idea that she's self-destructive. That she blew up the happy marriage. Because you can tell she loves her husband and they are happy. Right. And she did that anyway. So like it shows a kind of a self-destructive, trait in her. Like she didn't want it all to fall. She just couldn't help herself because she's fucked up. So there's that. And I think it also then serves the purpose of, it gives him permission to indulge in his this is my analysis, permission to indulge in his self-destructive tendency by signing up for the suicide mission.
Yeah.
I think that was the sequence of events. I think she cheated, he found out, and then his response was like, well, I'm going to sign up for this crazy mission because fuck her anyway.
It was
like that kind of, so you see this like spiraling of like the billiard balls of them knocking off each other. Like she does a shitty thing, so he does a shitty thing, so this results in that, and this results in that, and before you know it, you have a DMT trip in a lighthouse. Like that's that was my thing.
It was almost like you had to come to the Shimmer with some kind of skin in the game, almost like it wasn't. You couldn't be squeaky clean to get in there.
No, because anyone squeaky clean wouldn't sign up.
This is true. Like,
you have to be damaged, and that kind of, it's interesting the way you said that. that got me thinking, like, that's kind of a metaphor in its own thing. Like, because if the self-destructive idea is this movie, then, like, you would only be interested in indulging in this behavior if there's something wrong with you.
Yep.
If you're hurting, if you're damaged, if you're scarred, if you're wrong, like if there's something wrong with you. So it's like, why would you cheat on your husband if you're happy? Why would you sign up to go have the D&T trip with the aliens? Like, I mean, it's like because your wires are wrong, like there's something. Yeah.
Yeah, because like that wouldn't be enough to make me go to Zombie Bear Island. Like being cheated on would not make me say, what? I'm just like, airdrop me into the other world, please. Like, no,
it looks like a terrible trip.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Target. I'm gonna get a few new outfits. Take a couple of selfies. But
get a haircut. I'll buy some new clothes. I'll move on. Like, it's fine. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but like no, but they're like, oh yeah, I'll go see what's on the other side of the weirdo Shimmer. No. Yeah, if you're that person, like when you look at their laundry list, one's dying of cancer, one blew up her marriage and her husband's dying, one lost her daughter to leukemia, one's a recovering drug addict. Like there are all these kind of people who are a little like just not quite.
Just askew,
and they're seeking something. And like, not to get too on the nose, but some of them are sort of seeking like annihilation. They're seeking a cosmic experience. They want to get some truth. And unfortunately, as is the case with cosmic horror, like sometimes you're in the Lovecraft book and you see, like all of a sudden the curtain draws back and you see the thing finally, and you're like, oh, this was a terrible mistake. And
I was just gonna say, it's like, you go, like, you're going to this, wherever this Shimmer is a different world, right? So it's almost like no matter just walking through it, you teleport. And you go through it and you say, okay, I have to trust that the way that I'm going to be rewritten on the other side of this is going to be better. I'm going to lose all the parts that I don't like.
Right.
But
you dislike yourself so much. How could it be worse?
How could it be worse? I got nothing to lose.
I think that's how a lot of the characters in that movie were operating. It was like, I'm miserable out here. What have I got to lose? I'll see. And like, I think but then they realized that
there's no hope in this movie, Frank. Like,
there's no hope.
Once you see it, like as it gets started, you realize very quickly, like
it's all
this is a hopeless situation.
Some of them went in there with that, probably.
Yeah.
Like they went in like thinking like, I'm going to find some truth, or I'm going to find some hope, or I'm going to find some change. But change there's a lot of in the Shimmer, but not the kind they want. Like it's not like the thing where it turns everybody into a monster. It's not that simple, but you start realizing it again. It's a very good metaphor for trauma. It's doing things to you, and you may not be happy with the self that's left, but it's still you, and you're going to have to make it work, man. And that's kind of how I was, again, my reading of like life in the Shimmer is like, it's going to do things to you. And now it's on you to figure it out. And you're not going to like the things it's doing to you. And you're going to wish you weren't like this new self,
Yeah. It's going to destroy you.
And just to throw a little personal color into it. And this happened to me a long time ago. I don't want to bum anybody out. But like my mom died when I was in my last semester of college. This was 22 years ago, something like that. And I was very aware, like the day it happened, I went home from the hospital that day, and I was very consciously aware, I am different now. Like something, like that did a thing to me. And I am not the same person I was 48 hours ago. And I think this movie, and again, now it's like now it's on me, it's on you, like everyone, God willing, everyone is going to go through that, at one point or another. It's just a matter of when you go to the party. You're going to the party, but it's just a matter of when, probably.
You'll get an invitation. Don't worry.
Yeah, you don't worry. No one forgot you. You'll come up. You'll get the call. And
Yeah.
so now it's on you. So now what? Like this, we're giving you this sack to carry. How are you going to carry it? Are you going to fall on the ground and say, this is heavy, this is heavy? Are you going to carry it in a weird way where it's screwing up your back? Are you going to figure out the smart way to get I feel like this movie is a lot about that. It's a lot like things are happening now. Some of it is self-inflicted. Some of it is the Shimmer. But now what? Now your turn. Now what are you going to do?
Yep. Yeah. Whether you stay here or not, shit happens.
Right.
So
right.
Here it is. Like, you're welcome to go now. Like, this is what's left. Like,
change is a ferocious alligator with shark teeth. Like, okay, here's life.
Yeah.
This is crazy life and all its crazy potential coming at you. Now what? What are you gonna do? You're gonna get snatched up and dragged into the swamp, or you're gonna shoot it? Like, what are you gonna do? Well, at the end of it, like, flowers are growing out of your arms. Are you gonna try and are you just gonna say like, maybe it's not so bad to be a flower person? Like, what are you gonna, that's kind of the movie.
It's okay. It's for me, and I'm just speaking for myself. It's the best cosmic horror since The Thing. It's not The Thing, but
it's not The Thing.
That stop and make you not take your eyes off the screen, and also like pull you in with the story. It does it fantastic. It's not Michael Jordan, but you can't handle this one, so don't worry about that one. Like,
it's also like The Thing, and where I would say it's the best Lovecraft movie that's not a Lovecraft story. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, I mean, it's like The Thing is an H.P. Lovecraft, but boy, it oozes Lovecraft. And same with Annihilation. Like, it's not a Lovecraft story, but boy, it's really it feels like at the Mountains of Madness or whatever. Like, I mean, it has that kind of quality where it's like they're going to see this crazy stuff. They're encountering an alien entity. I don't even know how you would describe it. They're having an alien experience, and it's beautiful and horrific and life-changing and deadly and also like enlightening. It's a completely like it's blowing up their brains. And
right. It's the whole full experience, and like
Frank, yes, it absolutely is a mental health. I would say it's a mental health movie, personally. As someone who's gone to therapy, as someone who's had like trauma experiences, I would say like it's 100% like if you have any kind of interest or experience with mental health issues, you've been to therapy or not, you're interested in any of that, you will see so much in this movie that is like, oh no, like this is I see what they're doing here. Like
yeah, that's why I wanted to preface, like, it doesn't feel preachy. Like, it'll feel familiar, but it does not feel preachy. It's my favorite kind of self-expression. Not like I do it, but it's my favorite kind of self-expression to see is people take these heavy, earthly, I don't want to say normal, but relatable subjects, and you blow them up, and you blow it up, and you add so much color and dimension to it that it's still that same thing, but now it's like, now everybody can see what it's like to go through that. Like, just talking about, when you were talking about your mom, like, there's so much grief in this movie, and there were so many points that I too thought about, like, losing my dad. And like, I remember everything about that morning that I found out. Like, it was like I became like, I watched myself walk in one direction, and then I kept going in a different direction. It was like,
did you have the same experience? Because that's something that we've had, that a very similar experience
Yeah.
younger in our lives than a lot of people have it. So we're like, with the
Yeah.
party metaphor, we're showing up where they're still putting out plates and napkins. And like,
Yeah, exactly.
a lot of people are going to be at the party later, but we experienced it earlier than most. And
Yeah.
I remember this feeling, and I'm wondering if, because I know most people haven't had that experience yet, so they don't know what it's like, but maybe you remember this, or maybe you had a similar sensation. When it happens, it's so close in the past. Like it's 5 seconds ago, 10 seconds ago, a minute ago. And because it's so close, it feels like you could almost will the rewind. You know, like, I mean, it's just, it's right
there. Yeah.
It's right there. You almost feel time spatially, that it was just then she was alive. You know, like just right there. It was just a second ago. You know, like right there. I can almost touch it. And it's like, and you're just getting farther and farther and farther from it. And you feel it. You feel like the time, you know, the movement from it. Did you have anything like that?
You almost resist accepting it. I resisted accepting it for a while. Like I was in North Carolina, like my dad was like a week before he passed. And I left, and then when I went back and I walked in his room, and it was like a second where I'm like, wait, like I know he's gone, but like why is he not in bed? And it was like you can't put that time frame together. It's like that's where it was like trying to put two ends of the same side of a magnet together. And it's just like it's not the same anymore.
It's
just not the same anymore. Like and I think that's the point is that line that you were on terminated. Now you have to take, you got to get a connecting transportation route. You pick up and go to the next one.
And it's a time like that, times like that, where you're very aware of like how life just happened to you. You know, like it's most of the time you are in some semblance of control, or if with life's happening, it's very inconsequential. You know, it doesn't really, like, none of it really matters. Frank, I'm very sorry. I just saw that. Wow, I'm very sorry.
Wow,
and I know it is rough. Unfortunately, I still have one of my parents around, but I'm sorry to hear that. But again, you know, I don't know if this is helpful at all. It was helpful to me. It was harsh at the time, but helpful shortly after. When I was in the hospital room, and the writing was on the wall. Like there was a point where there was an inevitability to what was going to happen, but it hadn't happened yet. And there was a neurologist in the room getting me up to speed on like, boy, like this Crimson Owl got deep all of a sudden, but I'll get through this story real quick. There's a neurologist.
I love it. No.
Well, it's, look, it's a horror channel. This is real life horror, guys. Neurologist was in the room. He was telling me basically like my mom's condition, explaining it to me and explaining that basically this is very much on a track and it's gonna end in a very clear spot, a bad spot. And I forgot what made him say this, like what prompted it, but I remember him I can still picture it in my mind. He was standing at the foot of my mom's hospital bed. And he gestured to her while he was looking at me. It was just him and me in the room. And he said, "We're all going to be there someday." And my first reaction, I didn't say anything back. I just took that in, My first reaction was like, what a shitty thing to say to me right now. Like, that's not helpful to me.
Right.
But in a weird way, I found it very helpful. Like, there was something about the universality of the experience that kind of tethered me a little bit. The reminding that this is life. Like this is, and life is fleeting thing, and you
I was
know,
gonna say at some
as
point
painful
we'll
as
be
it
in.
is, and as sad as it is, and how unjust it can be at times, and unfair, and like all these things, that this is the closest thing to a universal human experience. And I
Right.
took some comfort in the idea that if every single human being that has ever lived and will ever live has had to experience this, both someone they care about and they themselves personally will experience, then I somehow know that I am fully capable of experiencing it. Does that make sense? Like, I know that this is within my, like, in my DNA as a human being is my ability to deal with it. Because that's what humans do. Am I still here? Are you still here? Did we freeze again? Hello, hello. We got another bot in the chat.
Okay. I think.
Who has no vowels in his name.
I'm back.
You're back. You're back. Okay. Are you back? You were back. Once again, now I am in complete control of Crimson Owl. Comics de la Muerte. Muerte. Oh my gosh. The things I'm going to do with this channel, it's going to be crazy. First thing we're going to do, we're going to knock down all these walls. All these walls are going to go. They're, oh, wait. Are you back? Are you? There you are. There you are. Okay. All right. My seizing of Comics de la Muerte is delayed. Postponed.
All right. Stay tuned. At least we're clear about your plans, Gary. I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. This is the first opportunity I get taking the channel.
All right, fair enough. At least we know.
Anyway.
But no.
I don't know where you cut out.
I think that this conversation has went on the only way that it could. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that this movie served its purpose once again in what you were saying about, two people see the movie and then you talk about it. Like, this is a conversation movie for after the movie, for sure.
We're now having that conversation. Yeah, totally. And that's what I think, above all else, I think that's what this movie is brilliant at. So if anyone out there is thinking of watching it, if it's not possible, go ahead and watch it on your own. But if it is possible, watch it with someone you like to talk about art with. Like, I think that's the best way. Like, you can totally watch it on your own. You'll love it. If you want, you can Facebook message Jason or I or both of us,
absolutely.
Talk about it after. But ideally, find your favorite movie companion and sit down and watch this movie together. I think that's the best way, because afterward you'll want to oh my gosh, what was that about? And what do you think that was? And it reminds me of when I felt like this. And it makes me think about this person I know who's going through this, whatever. It really stirs up a lot.
Yeah, I would say if you watch it all the way through one time, don't give up on it. There's really not a lot of spots that you would give up on it at, but just stick through it the first time, and it's pretty resonant. There's something that will at least hold your attention, even if you're just watching it for the sci-fi part of it.
Yeah, even if you just want to see the deal with this. Even if you just want to see the deal with this bear we're talking about, you'll get, just accidentally, you're going to get stuff. You're going to get oh, that's sort of weird. And
Yep. Yeah, and you'll appreciate it much more. You'll appreciate it much more than going to YouTube and then going and watching it. Let it build, because it was a great tension payoff.
Yes.
And it was just an out of nowhere fantastic movie. I expected to like it, but I didn't expect it to shoot through the list of movies that I've seen so far.
Well, and it was criminally kind of a sleeper. You know, I think it was a thing
Yeah.
that didn't even get a wide release outside of the United States. I think it came out theatrically here, and everywhere else it was Netflix or something. And this might be unfair, and maybe it's also dating me a little bit. But when I see a straight to Netflix movie, like see that one has come out, I immediately kind of prejudge it. You know, it's like, well,
Right.
it can't be that great because it didn't come out in the theaters. Now that with COVID, that's not as true anymore. Like, you know, with COVID,
Right.
you know, like a lot of great movies are going straight to digital. But when this came out, that was kind of weird. This was pre-COVID. And I don't even know how I got turned on. I think it was because I was really interested in the director because he had been involved in Ex Machina. And Ex Machina blew my mind. So I was now like, I want to know everything this guy's doing. Like, I want to see, you know, what this guy's been working on. I think that's how I came across Annihilation. Oh, gosh. Oh, did he blank again? All right, now, what were we saying? All right, okay, so this wall over here, we're going to knock this out. We're going to have one big, full, wide screen of just me. That's the plan right now. And then this, like, we're going to raise these ceilings. The ceiling's going to come up. We're going to lower the floor. It's going to be a drop floor. Jason froze. All right, Frank. Frank, this is going to be between you and me. Don't tell Jason or Ronnie all my plans just yet. Okay, so after we make this screen just me, make it huge. Oh my God, look at it. Just like that. Okay, now, what are we going to do with the channel now? Well, Ronnie and Jason did a lot of great stuff with all the horror things. Crimson Gary Studios right now. They did good work with the horror thing. I don't want to try and follow that, so we're going to do new direction. Totally new direction with the channel. I think it's going to be a lot of my high school poetry. So I think if we can just
I let you go for a little bit.
Thank God you're back, Jason. Phew.
Oh man, looks like I'm just in time. You almost had completed your takeover.
I really just was spitballing some things. Frank was totally into all of it. I just want you to know that he was absolutely a big fan.
He was trying to slide into my position. If you were gonna become Ronnie, Frank was trying to slide into my space.
Yeah, he was gonna be my number 2. That's how I'll buy him off. Like I'll keep him. Yeah, gonna need a co-host.
That's it. That's how you play. That's how you play the numbers game, man. I get it. I totally understand.
Look. We can't mourn the loss of you guys on the channel. You got to move forward. We gotta just carry on.
Change. Like this is the last regular episode of Comics de la Muerte. Like that's what this is all a build up to. Like we're handing it over to Gary and Frank now.
The reopening is going to happen next week.
Excellent. Well, I don't want to hold you too long, man. It's already 11:30. I got
2 hours. That's a pretty. That might even be a record Crimson Owl. I don't know. So
that's solid Crimson Owl, I think. But yeah. I think it had to run this long talking about a movie like Annihilation. Like,
it was a deep movie,
but no,
strange movie. I feel like it's almost impossible to do justice talking about it. But hopefully, everyone who's watching or watches later will get that. Just based on our enthusiasm talking about it, it's a movie worth checking
out. 100%. Totally. Like, you won't regret it. Even if you just watch it once. Even
if you don't like it that much, you might be like, well, that was definitely an interesting movie, you know, or a different movie. Whatever.
Yeah. And you'll like The Bear. Like, The Bear is something in movies that you should just see. Like,
yeah. There's no way you won't like
The Bear. That's worth the price of admission.
The Bear is pretty
It's
cool.
like sometimes, remember how you used to buy a CD, but it was on one song
for that one song? Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like $28 for the CD, but like, you're like,
that's right.
I really did like that Buddy Holly song Weezer put out, so it's okay, you know?
Yeah, so I guess I'll buy the whole thing.
I guess I'll just buy the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I'll just skip all these other songs every time.
Yeah. Track 7 every time, you know, whatever it was. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep. But yeah, man. So Gary Hodges, Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots.
Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots.
Fall Breaker Studios, mini comic bundles, all different kinds of stuff. So check us out.
Thanks for having me guest host with Ronnie out. Ronnie, if you're watching, I'm sure if you're not watching right now, you'll watch later. Thanks for entrusting me, even though I was trying to steal the channel multiple times through the video. I hope you're feeling better. I hope you're back next week.
Yeah. Hey guys, be good. Thanks again for stopping by, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, Gary. It was fun.
Thank you. It's always
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.